Hello everyone, and welcome to this video which is in our Engine Snack series. I'm Grandmaster Matthew Sadler, and we're taking a look at a game between Stockfish and Komodo Dragon, Game 2 of the TCEC Season 22 Superfinal. This position arose after move 17. It's a very interesting and unbalanced position, and it's also a position that was very familiar to me because it had occurred in a number of the engine matches that I run before the TCC to prepare for the openings. When I first saw it, I actually thought that black should be doing fairly well. I mean, after all, white's got a huge number of weak light squares in the position, and black has a light squared bishop to exploit it. We've got 2 pawns in the centre. We've got the possibility of e takes d4 to create a weak pawn on d4, and black's pieces, well, they're not perfectly developed yet, but give a couple of moves, bishop h3, rook f8, and black will be doing great. And indeed, in one of the engine matches that I played between AlphaZero and Stockfish, white played the move castles, and after bishop h3, knight g2, bishop g4, queen e1, e4, creating an outpost on f3, queen f2, knight f5, knight f4, queen e8, h3, bishop f3, black was actually doing fairly well. The engine still considered that white had an advantage, but actually in the game Leela wasn't able to do much with it. So that looked quite interesting, but in the games where Stockfish was white, Stockfish played a quite amazing concept, and Stockfish also did it at the TCC, and that was the move g4. That is quite an amazing move. White's king is uncastled, and all that white does is play a pawn to g4, which looks pretty loose in all fairness. What does that move do? Well, it stops, of course, the bishop coming to h3. It takes control of light squares on the king's side, in particular the square f5, so that means that the knight on e7 is passive. And funnily enough, it also creates a lovely outpost for the white queen in the future, which is the g3 square, attacking the e5 pawn, but of course, more importantly, attacking the c7 pawn beyond it. And I mean, I think the really important thing about white's position is that this rook is on a2, covering the second rank, and that actually removes an awful lot of the potential danger that you could see in white's position. Now, the really impressive thing about this move is that it's actually a pawn sacrifice. So black played e takes d4, c takes d4, and knight takes b4. So actually, this move g4 is actually giving up a pawn, giving black 2 pawns for the exchange. We play rook d2 to defend the d3 square. And now I had quite a few games in this position, but in the TCC game, black played knight bc6. Queen f3, attacking the pawn on d5, also getting control of the f-file, bishop b6 castles. Now a black rook can't come to f8, rook to d8, h3. And I really wondered, I'd seen this position a number of times, and I wasn't really sure about it, whether this was just a good position for white but not winning, or whether white, really had enormous chances. And, well, it really seems that white does have enormous chances. And the key problem that black has is activating its pieces. Now, what Komodo tried was to activate the knight round d6 into e4, but of course Stockfish was just in time with this move bishop a3, because knight e4 would allow queen f8 check, giving mate. So black plays h6, and then we take off, we exchange off the opponent's active pieces, well, that knight would have been really active on e4, and leave the opponent with passive pieces. And from this position, Komodo never really managed to get anything going. And well, what actually happened? Komodo felt compelled to swap off the queens in order to reduce white's pressure. But this ending was very, very promising for Stockfish, and very promising endings tend to get converted into wins, which is what happened here. But you can play through the whole game at the TCC at the link that I'll provide in the comments. But I really wanted to just go back to this move g4. A really amazing idea. Just shows that sometimes, the positional idea, fighting the opponent's positional advantages, and here it's access to the light squares, is sometimes more important than simple development like castles. And this was a really fantastic example. And of course, the really impressive thing is that it wasn't just about taking control of squares. It was also giving up an extra pawn in order to do it, and that's something, you know, that humans find quite difficult. You know, sort of judging, you know, am I overdoing it by giving back this material, you know, or should I just, you know, try and be a bit more restrained and keep my material and go for fewer gains? But the engines, you know, are absolutely wonderful at judging these things, and this was another great example.